Welcome back to another weekly update brought to you by the Derek Smith Spiel. This is March 10th through 16th, and I want to start out by just clearing up something that I mentioned last week about UFC, about the UFC world. I only talked about Alex Pereira, and I failed to talk about Big Ankh, Ankalaev. I gave a ton of respect to Pereira, and I voiced my truly unpopular opinion that I felt that he won that fight. A lot of people had Ankalaev winning that fight, and let me just revisit it and give Ankalaev the respect that he deserves. He went into that fight and he controlled where it went. He controlled. I will say Alex Pereira's shot defense was phenomenal, but Ankalaev controlled that fight. He outboxed Pereira. Other than the leg kicks are really the only part of that fight that Alex Pereira won. Ankalaev was controlling the center of the octagon. He was forcing Pereira up against the cage and holding him there for minutes at a time, 2-3 minutes at a time. He was truly controlling that fight. So I just want to give respect to Ankalaev, and he deserves that title. He really does. Alex Pereira was not robbed. I was just explaining the narrative around Alex Pereira and really stressing how close of a fight that was. But looking back on it and hearing other people talk about it, it just helped me realize, and I hope it helped everyone else realize, that Ankalaev really controlled that fight and he deserves that title. Seeing a rematch between the two would be exciting. Really, any fight with those two names, Pereira or Ankalaev, it's going to be an amazing fight. Hats off to both of those two, and respect to Ankalaev. But an even bigger narrative in the UFC is the GOAT debate. That's right, I'm talking about Johnny Bones Jones. Dana White is stubborn, like the most stubborn you can be. Whenever Jon Jones comes up, he does not fail to mention how he is the greatest fighter of all time. Undefeated. His one loss came from a terrible call on an elbow. So his only loss was by technicality. That was a true robbery. It has been announced that Jon Jones has agreed to a fight with Tom Aspinall. I do not know when the date is. I do not believe a date is set, but those two have agreed on fighting each other. And this is huge. This has been months in the making. The only way it could get bigger is if Alex Pereira went up to heavyweight and there was like a 3-way tournament between Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall, and Alex Pereira. These are the 3 biggest names in the sport right now. And when you're talking about the debate for greatest of all time, those are the 3 right there. Tom Aspinall, it doesn't even look like he's struggled in the octagon at the highest level in the UFC. He's finishing guys in the first round, finishing great guys, Curtis Blades, like... I can go on and on about how great each of these 3 fighters are. The fact that Jon Jones has agreed to fight with Tom Aspinall is huge. That is not only going to bring in a ton of money, but it's such a narrative. Jon Jones is already seen as the best fighter ever. Now for him at his age, after he's been in and out of the octagon for so long, so many times, the risk for him is insane. Tom Aspinall, he has some risk too, but really he's going against the greatest UFC fighter of all time. Like, if he loses, so what? He lost to a true legend, the GOAT, the one everyone says is the GOAT. He has nothing to lose, everything to gain, in my eyes. Like, if he loses to Jon Jones, as long as it's a good fight and he looks like Tom Aspinall out there, who cares? If Jon Jones loses, he might fall out of the GOAT conversation. And he shouldn't, but that's just how the sport is. People move on so quickly. If Jon Jones takes one loss, all of a sudden, GSP is in the GOAT conversation. Tom Aspinall, Alex Pereira, all these guys are in the GOAT conversation when right now it seems undisputed. Now, if Jon Jones wins, obviously, it's solidified that he is the GOAT. It's just a huge fight, and the fact that it's been announced that Jon Jones has agreed to it. Again, that doesn't mean it's going to happen, but just that it's one step closer it's a great surprise. It's truly a great surprise. I hope it does happen because that would truly be a dream fight. Now, moving on to the MLB, it was announced Monday night that Gerrit Cole will miss all of the 2025 season due to Tommy John surgery. The Yankees are now down their ace, and Gerrit Cole, obviously, and they're down Louis Gill. Louis Gill suffered a lat strain and will miss the first 3 months. So their pitching lineup's already depleted. The Yankees, they're in a tough spot because the Yankees are known for winning. That's their MO. They've won 27 titles. They're supposed to win. It's an expectation at this point. In the past few years, it's terrible because they've been winning. They've been making it far into the playoffs. They've made it to the World Series and lost in the playoffs. But it feels like if they don't win the World Series, they're losing. That's truly how it feels when you're talking about the Yankees. And there's a ton of hate on the Yankees. There's a ton of stress on the Yankees. It's just the expectations are extremely high. And they should be, but seeing this happen early in the season, it's just deflating. It feels like a knockout blow. Max Fried is still healthy, and Marcus Stroman is now the fourth man in their lineup. They were talking about trading Marcus Stroman, but now it looks like they're going to have to keep him. New pitchers the Yankees may pursue. Let's look at a solution to this. They could sign Kyle Gibson, or they could trade for Sandy Alcantara. Alcantara is the pitcher for the Marlins ace. Because the Marlins looks like they aren't going to have a competitive year, they might be more open to trading him maybe for future draft picks, money, another player. So look for the Yankees to pursue Kyle Gibson or Sandy Alcantara. Anything beyond that, the Yankees are going to have to see what happens the first half of the season. If the Padres struggle, they could go after Dylan Cease. It all depends on if teams are going to look to build for next year based on how it goes halfway through the year. So the Yankees are not going to be able to solve this problem right away. And really starting the season off, they're down. They're behind the 8 ball. So how are the Yankees going to respond? It'll be interesting to see. I think they'll be able to respond. They're winners. They are winners. I don't care that they haven't won the World Series. New York is known for winning. And we're going to see how the Yankees respond to this. I think that's what you need to watch and keep your eye out for in New York this season. Really how the Yankees respond. But also the Mets, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. But yeah, watch for the Yankees and how they respond. Jacob deGrom, he is looking to complete his first full season since 2019 after his second Tommy John surgery. As far as an approach to the season, he is changing his mindset from blowing hitters away. He was a true fireball pitcher, an electric fastball, and even his off-speed stuff really didn't seem like off-speed because it was coming so fast and moving so much. But he's changing his mindset. He's going from a fireball pitcher to forcing weak contact and really working early in the count. He's not going to throw as hard as he can every pitch. It's still going to get to the plate fast. It'll still be at least 95 miles per hour, I'm sure. But he's going to change his mindset from strikeouts and overpowering hitters to trusting his accuracy and trusting the fielders behind him, which at this age, it is not a bad idea, especially after two Tommy John surgeries. It'll be an interesting adjustment to watch. It seems like Jacob deGrom is in a great place. He's been testing this out in the spring training, and he and the Rangers are happy with how it's going. He's still going to get eased back in. He won't be the, or at least start off as the workhorse, that he is known to be, but he's going to work his way back. So also watch to see how Jacob deGrom handles his struggles. And the last story I have as far as the MLB, it's really the same theme. all the stories coming from the MLB, unfortunately, are due to injuries, and how teams will respond, or how a particular player will respond. This is no different. Ronald Acuna Jr. is looking to come back from his second ACL surgery. Ronald Acuna Jr. is an electric player to say the least, electric and explosive. Seeing him healthy, is fully healthy, is as a gift. It's amazing to watch him play. Acuna took his second ACL tear very hard. When he was called and got the news, he broke into tears. It was a very difficult night. But within hours, he called his trainer back, and he just embraced where he was and looked forward to the road of recovery. The Brave trainer said that they had never seen a more mature and focused Acuna than in recovery for his second ACL tear. However, Acuna said during recovery that he was done stealing bases. That to me is concerning to hear. If a player like Acuna, stealing bases is really his MO. That's part of what makes him so electric, and that's what he brings to the team and brings every time he gets on base, just that threat that he can move forward an extra 90 feet and get that much closer to home and scoring a run. So when he says something like that, again, it was earlier in the recovery, so he was still in shock, and he does not want to see his career shortened, especially so close. He doesn't feel like he's at his peak yet, but he's getting close at 27 years old. He's getting close to where he's going to be at his peak athleticism, and he wants to stay healthy for that. So I can't blame him for not wanting to steal bases, but you don't want to see him limit himself so much that he's locked in place once he gets on the bases. The trainers stressed to him that he doesn't need to go that far. Now, the managers and the trainers, they think the biggest thing in this injury and in this recovery is solely the mental aspect. They want Ronald Acuna Jr. to play smarter and more efficient. And what they mean by that, for example, is when he got injured, when he tore his ACL for the second time, Acuna was trying to steal from second to third base. And when he was halfway there, he realized he wouldn't be able to make it. So he went to make a sudden, sharp turn to go back to second, and that's when he tore his ACL. They want to try and cut that out of the game, the unnecessary, forced errors. That's what they want to try and get out. But they still want to see Ronald Acuna Jr. be Ronald Acuna Jr. They want to see him stealing bases and making plays with his feet. And they've been working a lot on that and stressing that to him. So it'll be interesting to see what Ronald Acuna Jr. comes out on opening day. And it'll be interesting to see how he progresses throughout the season. Now, once again, to the final subject and the longest subject, the NFL. The NFL, my weekly updates on the NFL, they have started red hot and they have not cooled down at all. Aaron Jones, he re-signs with the Vikings. Obviously huge to have a running back like Aaron Jones in your backfield. Davante Adams, he is going to the Rams. That's huge. It's now Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, and Williams in the backfield. That is a dangerous offense. That's a dangerous offense, and the Rams' defense is solid. The Rams are going to be contenders this year. Watch out for the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams did release Cooper Kupp, just like they said they would if no other team attempted to trade for him, and that's what they obviously did. They released Cooper Kupp. But guess where Cooper Kupp went? To the Seattle Seahawks. Now this is very interesting. This is very interesting when you look at what the Seattle Seahawks have done in only the past 2 weeks. Last week, it looked like they were going to have a rebuild year. They got rid of Geno Smith. They unfortunately had to release Tyler Lockett. And DK Metcalf demanded a trade, and they traded DK Metcalf to the Steelers. It looked like a rebuild. They called it retooling their lineup. but there seems to be no difference between retooling and rebuilding. This week proves that there is a difference between retooling and rebuilding because they got rid of their old tools and they got new ones. They signed Cooper Kupp, they signed Sam Darnold, and just for an extra amp on defense, they signed DeMarcus Lawrence. So now let's take a look at how the Seahawks lineup has changed this week. It went from you don't know who their quarterback's going to be. Smith-Njigba is going to be their top wide receiver, and you don't really know who else is going to be to throw to. And they have Kenneth Walker in the backfield. Right now, they have Sam Darnold at quarterback, Cooper Kupp and Smith-Njigba at wide receiver, and they have Kenneth Walker out of the backfield. It sounds like an amazing offense. I would watch. I'd bet they start relatively slow. I would not have high expectations for these guys in the beginning of the year. Their lineup hasn't been around the coaching staff for an extremely long time. Give them a little bit. It might be a slower start. I bet you by the end of the season, they're going to be clicking on all cylinders, and the Seahawks will be a respectable team to look out for. But the Rams are still a problem. The race between the Rams and the Seahawks could get interesting. But let's go to the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills re-signed reigning MVP Josh Allen to a $330 million contract that will keep him through the 2030 season. This contract had $250 million guaranteed. That sets the record for the most guaranteed money to a player in NFL history. And now Josh Allen, he definitely deserves this. When you look at what he did last season with the tools he had around him, it was phenomenal what he did. And the way he competes is unmatched. His competitive edge is insane. You know who Josh Allen reminds me of is Peyton Manning. And I don't mean the play style. I mean when you look at their careers. Peyton Manning, earlier in his career, he struggled with interceptions. He struggled bad with interceptions. Rookie year was awful. You didn't know if Peyton Manning was going to stick around in the NFL. Then Peyton Manning obviously settled in. And he started losing in the playoffs to the GOAT, Tom Brady. And the narrative around Peyton Manning was he was a great quarterback until he got to the playoffs. And in the playoffs, he couldn't do it. Now, when you look at Josh Allen struggled with interceptions earlier in his career, especially in the red zone. He settled in, but he loses every year in the playoffs to Patrick Mahomes. Now, what's interesting about this is Peyton Manning was able to overcome all this adversity, winning Super Bowls. Nobody thinks of Peyton Manning as a quarterback who choked and couldn't handle himself in the playoffs. I would be very interested to see if Josh Allen has a similar character arc to Peyton Manning, because so far it's spot on. So watch for Josh Allen. Watch out for Josh Allen. Everyone in the NFL already knows that. The Bills not only did that, but they also signed a 1-year deal with Joey Bosa. The Bills lost Von Miller, and Bosa is not just an replacement for Von Miller. He's an upgrade. If Joey Bosa stays healthy, he is going to be a huge piece for the Bills' defense. They needed more defensive linemen who could get pressure on the quarterback, and Joey Bosa can hands down do that. Taking a look at the Detroit Lions made a lot of moves. They had to release Zadarius Smith. They lost Carlton Davis. So those are two big pieces on defense gone, and what they need most improvement with is their defense. But they signed DJ Reed to replace Davis. Now, DJ Reed is not a clear upgrade, and he is not a ball hawk. He has 6 interceptions in his 7 years in the NFL. But he is a hard-nosed player that gets tackles and just sticks his face mask in the action. And when you're talking about Detroit, that is their identity. They're a gritty team. So DJ Reed, he'll fit right in on that defense. The Lions then re-signed Tim Patrick, who is just a reliable slot receiver, really came on at the end of the season. As a fan of the Lions, it's great to see him back because he's got a cool story, and he was just always reliable. The Lions also re-signed Levi Onwuzurike and Derek Barnes. The Buccaneers re-signed Chris Godwin. I don't even need to explain that. Obviously a great wide receiver. Great to re-sign him. And they also signed Hassan Reddick. Jump over to the Jets. The Jets signed Justin Fields to be their quarterback. They then released Aaron Rodgers. Speaking on Aaron Rodgers, he will most likely go to the Giants or Steelers. But the Vikings have officially lost Sam Darnold and might not want to give J.J. McCarthy the starting job. They might want to give him another year to develop. If Aaron Rodgers did the Brett Favre slam, that would be Martin Scorsese cinema. That would be almost comedic to see Aaron Rodgers go on the same exact journey that Brett Favre did. That would make me laugh out loud. So my fingers are kind of crossed that Aaron Rodgers goes back to the NFC North and plays for the Vikings, because that would just be hilarious to me. When you look at Rodgers' numbers last year, he threw for 3,897 yards, 28 touchdowns to only 11 interceptions. He really didn't have that bad of a season. The Jets weren't winning, so you really wrote him off, but he's still a good quarterback. He really is. But looking at the Jets as a team, there's a lot of what-ifs on this team. And I personally still don't have high expectations. But with the new coaching staff, it will be interesting to see how they do, at least in the next few years. Aaron Glenn is very much defensive coordinator from Detroit. He's very much an in-your-face, aggressive play caller. It'll be interesting to see if he can infuse that into the New York Jets locker room. The Colts, they signed Charvarius Ward, and the Colts have been upgrading their defense all offseason. That's been their goal. They are rumored to also sign Cameron Bynum, so watch out for that. The Colts also signed Daniel Jones. Now, I feel bad for Daniel Jones. I truly do. Daniel Jones was re-signed to a huge contract by the Giants last year. And the Giants were saying he was their guy. He was the answer. And then the whole team struggled the first half of the season, and they really hung Daniel Jones out to dry. So I'm rooting for Daniel Jones and the Colts. Now let's talk about the Philly flippin' move. The Eagles have traded Kenny Pickett to the Browns for a 5th-round pick. And this is what you really need to watch out for on this trade, other than what the 5th-round pick turns into. It's, will Kenny get his time to shine in Cleveland, or at least to try and shine? Kenny Pickett really hasn't got much playing time. He was obviously a phenomenal quarterback in college football. Will he get his chance at a starting job in the NFL in Cleveland? The second trade made by the Eagles traded C.J. Gardner-Johnson to the Texans for guard Kenyon Green. Gardner-Johnson was a huge pickup for the Texans to fill their hole at safety, and Gardner-Johnson is a ball hawk safety. The Texans' defense was ranked 2nd in interceptions last year with 19 as a team, so Gardner-Johnson will fit right into their play ball defensive style. Let's take a look at New Orleans. The Saints, they re-signed Chase Young. Chase had 46 pressures last year. That's tied for 11th. And then the Saints also picked up Justin Reed. The Patriots signed Carlton Davis from the Lions. He's a solid cornerback. the Commanders trade 4 picks for offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil and a 4th-round pick. Now, talking about what the Commanders have done this offseason, they have added Deebo Samuel to their wide receiver and running back core, and now they have one of the best offensive tackles protecting Jaden Daniels. So when you're talking about the NFC East, it's not a guarantee that the Eagles are going to win it again. The Eagles are going to be phenomenal, and the Commanders are going to be coming right after the Eagles. The NFC East race between the top 2 teams is going to be a ton of fun to watch this year. The Chargers, they signed Najee Harris. Najee has topped 1,000 rushing yards in all 4 of his seasons. He's a great running back. Now, with that being said, he only averages 3.9 yards a carry, but you've got to be doing something right to have over 1,000 rushing yards in all 4 of your seasons in the NFL. The Cowboys, they signed Dante Fowler to replace DeMarcus Lawrence. Fowler had 10.5 sacks and 14 tackles for loss last year, so a good pickup by the Cowboys. But the Cowboys, they're still hurting. They're still hurting. When DeMarcus Lawrence left and tweeted what he did, it really felt like it spoke volumes to how the Cowboys are feeling, and it seems like they do not feel like they can win. It might be another ugly season for Dallas, and it's not going to be easy. They have the Commanders and the Eagles. It doesn't look like they made any clear upgrades. It's going to be a rough season for Dallas, even with Dante Fowler. Unfortunately for Dallas fans, fortunately for everyone else in the NFL. The Falcons, they announced that they are not going to release Kirk Cousins. And if I feel for anyone, even more than Daniel Jones in the NFL, it's Big Kirko. Kirk Cousins was brought to the Falcons, given a huge contract, and told he was going to be the number 1 guy. That same year, they drafted a quarterback, 1st round in the draft, and it wasn't even clear that Kirk Cousins was going to get the starting job. He had to compete to be QB1 in Atlanta after they just threw all this money at him. Last year, it started off pretty good, great. And then mid-season, he had a lot of struggles. He was throwing a lot of interceptions, and they took him out. But to make someone feel like they're your guy, to give him all this money, to give him the illusion that he is the solution in your football program, and then as soon as he faces struggles, even before he faces struggles, to make him question whether he's even your number 1 option, that just seems cold-blooded to me. I feel bad for Kirk Cousins. I hope he has a phenomenal bounce-back year, because when Kirk Cousins is healthy and playing to the best of his ability, for me, he's one of the most fun quarterbacks to watch in the NFL. He's entertaining on and off the field. He's hilarious. Now, last but not least, DeAndre Hopkins was signed by the Ravens. Hopkins has 12,965 career receiving yards, giving him the most for any active player in the NFL. His production has slowed down a bit the past 2 years, but having a reliable veteran and a relatively young wide receiver core is huge, and that's what the Ravens are looking at right now. Now the Ravens have Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and D-Hop. That's just to throw 2. They obviously have Derrick Henry in the backfield and Lamar Jackson, who always has the option to run. The Ravens' offense is going to be very scary, and this DeAndre Hopkins pick, this is nothing to just shake your head about. This is a phenomenal pickup for the Ravens. DeAndre Hopkins rarely ever drops balls. He is going to be an extremely reliable wide receiver and a huge tool for the Ravens to use on their star-studded offense. Now, with that being said, that's all I've got. That is the weekly update for March 10th through 16th. I will catch you later. This episode was brought to you by yours truly, Derek Smith, with help from the Voice Memos and Spotify Podcasters app. For more content like this, you can continue listening to the Derek Smith Spiel on Spotify, or you can listen on my YouTube channel at Derek Smith Stock 13. There you'll find my podcast and sports betting videos on top of that. If you're a fan of my sports betting videos, you can also see highlights of those on my TikTok account. You can find that by searching at SmithStock5 again on TikTok. Enjoy collecting cards? If so, check out my Collects account at Derek Smith Stock to get deals on quality cards. For updates on everything I mentioned, follow my Instagram account. You can find that by searching Derek Smith Stock 13 on Instagram. Not interested in sports? Then go to YouTube and watch Dylan Smith Outdoors YouTube channel. Search Dylan Smith Outdoors, where there are plenty of outdoor content videos, including hunting, catching, trail cam and tree stand setup, cooking, and plenty of laughs in between. Need your lawn sprayed? Whether it's weeds or insects, Greenwood Ecologics has you covered. If you need help making your lawn greener than your neighbors, call Greenwood Ecologics at 585-739-1610. I repeat, 585-739-1610. Finally, thank you for listening to this production of the Derek Smith Spiel. Every view or listener is appreciated. I'll catch you later.